239 players from Belvedere, from under 15 to senior level, have been capped by the Republic of Ireland. Do you know that?
I know.
239 for
239.
all age groups. 16 full internationals. You're one of the 16.
I was going to say that seemed like a lot, but I was thinking full international straight off the bat. Yeah.
You have like Wes Houlihan, Stephen Elliott, Troy Parrott,
neighbour, close, very close to mine.
Keith Treacy, Curtis Fleming, Mark Kennedy, and that's not to mention, or that's without mentioning the Belvo Culchies.
Yeah.
You got David Ford. You got Killian Sheridan, who went down here from his native
we had a
cabin.
nickname for Ford, do you want it?
Yeah, go on.
Clark Kent. That's what he was known as in the Irish team.
It was a compliment.
Resembling to Superman.
And could he turn into...
It was more the chin. The chin like Superman.
That's where it started and stopped.
The chin. Superman chin.
So what makes Belvedere so super? What's that about? Those stats are incredible.
They are incredible, and it's... I always loved playing for Belvedere. When I look back, some of my best memories are all to do with being around Belvedere Football Club, and I think it's the people within the club. Obviously, I've just met Tony. I haven't been back at Belvedere in years and years now, but the one constant was a real family feel. And if my father couldn't bring me to games, there was always somebody that would come and make sure I was there. And looking back, it was probably because I was a very good footballer, or it was just because there was a homely and family feel within the Belvedere setup. And I would go up and play for the older age groups at times as well. And I just found it. I found my place in Belvedere very, very early, and I realised that it was a brilliant social currency to be good at football. And I absolutely loved my time here. And I think what sets Belvedere apart from other DDSL teams is just the people that are in the building.
Yeah, but it's like how you describe Belvedere there. I'd say a lot of clubs would claim all of that, like that it's a great place to play football, and like essentially the be all and end all is it's a social outlet, because like what are the percentage of people who actually make it from Ireland? Like you are the top 1% of people who actually get to do it. And so really it's all about a community thing. So most clubs in Ireland will claim that. Is Belvo any different? Like, did they do anything differently that got people to play here?
I'm not too sure. I think it's the reputation that Belvedere was there long before I started playing for the club, and I think there is a big draw. But the one thing I loved about the club is they don't constantly bang home this idea of being a professional footballer and going home or going across the water to England or to whatever. Not constantly. Obviously that's the end goal for a lot of players, but it's more about enjoying yourself, having a smile on your face. And we never really know what's going on in people's personal lives. So when kids come from the homes and they're here, you don't know what they're coming away from. So the last thing you want to do is to be banging on, you need to be perfect when you walk into this building. It's about enjoying yourself, progression. And look, if you want to be a professional footballer, that's great, but Belvedere is a stepping stone on the way to that. It's not the finished article, and kids come here to vent, kids come here to get away from other issues, and it's not all about being a professional footballer when you're here. And I think Belvedere have a really good balance of pushing kids to be professional footballers and letting them know that there's an outlet. And so, not everybody that goes and plays football at such a young age should be thinking, well, I'm only playing if I'm going to be a professional. Some of this is just about getting out of the house and your mental well-being, staying fit, social bonds, and all that side of it. So I think Belvedere have a really good balance in between that, and that's obviously one of the big allures of the club as well. Yeah,
because like you would think from the outside looking in, like behind you there's a list of well-known players who have made it, like which you included, and you have the setup here, and it's nice, like the branding is great, but it would seem from the outside like this is a really professional, almost cutthroat environment, because you have to be to get all those players making it. But I'm kind of surprised to hear that it was kind of friendly first. It invited anyone who wanted to play. But it still goes back to my question of like, how did you manage to create so many professionals with that environment? I thought it would have been ruthless, like you're good enough here.
Yeah, look, don't get me wrong, it as you come 14, 15, 16, it gets like that, as it does in every club. But I my first memory of the club is my father was reading the paper at home, and there was something to do with trials, Belvedere FC turn up at Fairview on such a day, such a time, and my brother Martin was 2 years older than me, so my dad said, you're coming with me, we're going to throw you into the football. So I went along because there was no babysitters. My dad left me on the side and Martin started playing. The Belvedere coaches came across and said, what's wrong with him? And my dad, he's too young. He said, get him in there, come on. And I just started training. And just at the drop of a hat, playing with my older brother, being with older people. And I don't think there's a lot of clubs that would have said, get that fella with the nappy on and just let him play. And that sort of stuff, even though he was 2 years younger, just get in and play, enjoy yourself and see how you go. And that type of thing, just obviously, that's one of the reasons I love the club.
You went from Belvedere to Blackburn Rovers, which sounds like an unbelievable step up. But at the time, not that unusual for a GDSL club to directly provide a professional player. I think English clubs is different now. Yeah,
it is different, and I was just speaking to Tony there, and it's something that creeps up a lot. You know, the DDSL, I think, has been weakened by the emergence of academies within the League of Ireland. I know the League of Ireland becoming stronger is brilliant, but it does have a knock-on effect to the DDSL, and it's, you know, the money that filters down, the I think it's called nurturing fees and all, getting players now at 12, 13 are going to League of Ireland academies, and then they're going from League of Ireland academies to another bigger club, and the money and the percentages are filtering down is a lot less. But yeah, I played for Belvedere from the age of 4 all the way up to 15 and absolutely loved it, and had Cherry Orchard, Shelbourne, Kevin's, Home Farm all knocking on the door, even Sherry Street, but Sherry Street never played in the Premier League at my age group, so I was never going to play for Sherry Street, although they knocked on the door quite a lot. And I was never ever interested in going anywhere else, and we weren't the best team in the league, but I had friends in the team. I had Daniel Ennis, who's a councillor now for the Social Democrats. So I had people that I really, and like I say, the parents were in it. It was just a homely feel, and it wasn't about winning trophies at my age group. It was about having bonds, and like I say, I think there's probably 3, 4, even Stephen Henderson, who's the goalkeeping coach at Charlton now. I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago, just sent him a picture because he looks horrendous on the picture in the background there. But yeah, it's brilliant. Like I say, I've had them social bonds, and I've been on off the ball speaking about players being ships in the night, but at Belvedere level, like I say, there's probably 3, 4, maybe even 5 people I still keep in contact with from under 14s football. What happened first? Was it the way you played football yourself naturally, or did Belvedere create the player that you became? I think it was both. I think I would play football an awful lot on the street. Where I'm from in Sherry Street, there's a school right across the road, so I would hop over the railings and I'd just be kicking the ball off an uneven wall. It sort of had cobblestones going up the wall, so you'd ping it off the wall, and it would never come straight back. It would be to the left, to the right, or it'd be bouncing at you some horrible way. And I was always seen with a football. I was that kid who had football boots on, running up and down the carpet on the stairs, trying to break them in. Just could not get enough of it. Lived, breathed, slept football 24/7. So when I was in the building at Belvedere, absolutely loved every minute of it. But when I left, I was just as intense and wanted to play football. And I was probably viewed as quite a loner as a child, but always loved football. And my underlying thing was, you don't need friends to play football, because I had a wall and I had the ball. Nice little rhyme there. Yeah. Did you have friends in Belvedere? Oh yeah, I did. I like I say, I think I would have been quite socially awkward, and socially I wouldn't have been great with other people. But because I was good at football, people gravitated to me quite easily, and it's a brilliant social currency to have when you're a kid and you're a little bit awkward, a teenager, not quite comfortable in your own skin. When you're good at football, people come to you and they want to be your friend. And I realised that a lot, even like going into first year in O'Connell School, when you get your first year beatings, the other people would come around and give you a few digs. They would stop. You go, oh, no, that's the footballer, don't hear him. And I thought, tell you what, it being funny and having a bit of talent brings you a long way when you're a teenager. Your daughter Jerry Ann's off camera here listening. Is she going to get a lot of new information here that she wouldn't otherwise know? There's nothing she hasn't already Googled. Who are your influential coaches? There would be a lot. The two that really stuck with me would be Jerry Mooney and Tommy Kenny. Tommy is knocking around on the pictures here. He was brilliant and done what most of the other Belvedere coaches, he would just always be there, would always, would talk to me. And these people become father figures as well, because like I say, my father was working every hour that God sent, so would very rarely be able to get me places to train. So Tommy would do it, Jerry would do it, and they're coming from their jobs 9 to 5 to collect me, to bring me to training. And yeah, it just made me feel really welcome. And like I say, the father figure that you do need in these types of places, I got that quite a lot. But there's people in the background, like Daniel Ennis's father, Jeffrey Ennis, used to drive us a lot everywhere. He had a big Chrysler that had 7 seats in it, so we used to love going with him with the heated seats. My dad had a van that we used to get thrown in the back of, wasn't quite as glamorous, But those little memories, you look back now and you think, it's absolute time in my life, and I wish I could do it all again.
Was there like I suppose coaching philosophy is something that's kind of new in football terms. You weren't going around in the early 2000s talking about your philosophy as a coach. But was there something consistent about the coaches in Belvedere, in how they trained you and how they wanted you to play football?
Yeah, well, it was really basic stuff: control, pass, move. But you tell people that now. Control. If you can't control the ball, if you can't pass the ball, and you won't run off the ball, you're not going to get very far in football. And they were the underlying things all the time.
We could talk about that like separately as our own interview, because like Roy Keane was told that when he made his debut for Nottingham Forest, and there's a link. There's a link with Belvo.
The Forest.
Yeah. So Keane was scouted in a game against Belvo by a Nottingham Forest scout.
Yeah.
Recommended to Brian Clough off the back of that game against Belvo, and then a star was created. And if you look up Belvo on Wikipedia, it's one of the entries there that it was the club that helped to make a star. But when he was about to make his debut against Liverpool at Anfield, he calmed Roy Keane down by saying, you can do two things: you can control the ball and you can pass the ball. And he went, and he made a whole career out of that.
Yeah.
Sounds similar.
And to be fair, it's like people say, that's really basic. When you get to a certain level, it gets more complicated. When I moved over to Blackburn, we used to train at 10:30 every morning, but we'd get thrown into the indoor at about 9:30, just before 9:30, and they'd say an hour of technique work, bang the ball, do what you want, weights, whatever you want. But at the top of the indoor, it was control, pass, move. That's what you'd see for an hour and a half every single day. It's so important, but the basics of the game, if your first touch is wrong, everything is going to be wrong. It's so basic, but if you get the basics right, you've half a chance.
So they had the basics here, Belvo. So what would be a typical training session as you're going through the age groups? Like, what did you do? Do you remember? Because I remember playing like a lot of two-touch football, and then last 5 minutes the shout from the side will be all in, and everyone loves it then because you can touch as much as you want.
It would be fairly similar. We do a few games at the start, get people in a good mood, races, all that type of stuff, reaction stuff. Then it would be possession, do maybe some longer passing. I used to love doing that, and they say, right, go 30 yards away and try and ping it to each other, but it would be left foot, right foot, not just constantly the same thing, not just outside of the whip, inside, visit with your laces, do it on the half volley. So although these things are quite, you're doing them and you think, I'm enjoying doing this, you're still working on your technique and you think, that looks quite easy, but it's the little basis of, can you pass with the outside of your foot, can you pass with the inside of your foot? Because if somebody presses you and you can use both feet and the outside and the inside, very difficult to block all those angles off at once. And it's those little things that you learn in street football or when you're with Belvedere that become absolute gold dust at the highest level.
When did you know you were a bit special?
I think the older team, I was 14, and the older team, Belvedere, the under 15s, they had a game against Kevin's, and that would have been quite a deep rivalry at the EDSL level. And they rang me and said, look, would you play in that game for us? We need a striker. And I said, okay, I'll play. And I was a bit tentative, thinking Kevin's big reputation. How am I going to get on here? I think I scored 3, and the lads, the older age group were like, will you come again next week? Will you play next week? And I ended up then flip-flopping between my team and the older team. So I'd play for my team on a Saturday, the older team on a Sunday, and then I'd have DDSL trials or Ireland trials or something during the week. It just flipped into an everyday thing. But that hat-trick I scored against Kevin's, I remember thinking, I think I'm all right at this, Yeah,
because like we're in the grounds that made you, and so we're in this clubhouse now for Belvedere, and then just outside there's the new Astro, owned by Dublin City Council, and it's fairly plush looking. Over there is Fairview Park, where you play a lot of your games. Do you remember scouts from England, Blackburn and beyond? Do you remember them being here? Do you remember them looking at you? And do you remember those conversations?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have had too many face-to-face conversations with the scouts myself. Funny enough, it was all done by fax back in the day. Yeah, so Belvedere had a headquarters that wouldn't have been here, but they would have had a headquarters somewhere, and faxes would come through quite regularly. But again, there's a picture of Vinnie Butler there just over the 50th anniversary. Yeah, he was the under 15s and under 16s Ireland manager for Ireland, obviously, but he did have something to do with Belvedere. He went off to do that, and he would turn up every single game to watch. Like Saturday, Vinnie be there, and everybody, would you go to Cherry Orchard to win the league? Would you go to Shelbourne to win the league? And I thought, why would I do that when the Ireland manager's coming to my game every single week? And I would always get picked to play for the underage team. So I just thought it was a match made in heaven. I think Vinnie lives in Clontarf, and that's why locally he would turn up quite a lot. But yeah, Vinny had a big part to play on my career as well.
I'm just looking at the pictures of all the players, and we knew it already, but you're still reminded. Like, so, like right over the 50th anniversary, there you have Matt Doherty, Troy Parrott, Wes Houlihan. You've Curtis Fleming as well yourself, but even concentrated on Wes Houlihan, Matt Doherty, and yourself. One thing in common is like composure in abundance on the ball. Now, was that a coincidence? Were you just like that anyway, or did that have something to do with Belvedere?
Yeah, I think it probably does have something to do with Belvedere, being given that confidence to not be afraid to lose the ball. I like, one of the things I remember is when I got into the Premier League team at Blackburn, being told how much you can't lose the ball and don't risk it, don't run down dead ends. But what was really instilled at me early doors at Belvedere was, when you get it, run at people, run at them as fast as you can, and make it as difficult for people. Now, obviously, you get to the higher level, you know, stats and everything else come into it, but Belvedere was a place that probably seen a little flame in me and thought, yeah, we'll throw that on there, because I played left back, I played in goal, I played centre midfield, I played up front, I would play anywhere. But Belvo, I think, seen something in me as a winger and absolutely loved running with the ball, and they threw some petrol onto that flame.
Did you play most positions? Did you hear Kenny Dalglish recently saying that? Who was it? Was it Jock Steen was saying, play centre half if you're losing the ball, centre mid, because we're getting an appreciation of what you're doing to your defenders if you lose the ball.
Yeah.
Did they move you around here a bit? Because you said that they spotted where you're best.
Yeah.
But did they try you in different positions? How did it work?
Belvo did, yeah. But generally it would be reactive to other teams. So if we were playing a Cherry Orchard, they'd say, oh, look, one of the Cherry Orchard centre midfielders plays for Ireland, so why don't we move Keith into centre midfield to try and nullify what they could do. But generally I'd still do the same stuff in the middle of the park that I'd be doing on the wing. I'd get it and run straight at people. And yeah, I think they just thought, he's a winger. First and foremost, he's a winger, he likes running at people. And when I played for Ireland, that was when I started to get mixed around a bit. I'd be thrown left back, I remember being thrown up front a couple of times as well, and just being hopeless, just being caught offside all the time, just wandering offside. But yeah, I think the winger was my best position, although I was bumped around everywhere, even in goal. I had a toothache once, I got thrown in goal and was absolutely hopeless there.
I was going to say, how'd you do? How was your handling?
Hopeless. There was a cross coming in and I left it. I thought it was going to hit the side net and left it, and it came in between me and the goal post, and never played in goal again.
Was your instinct as a tan ball?
Yeah, well, I think it just wasn't there. Tough, but I honestly thought it was hitting the side net and just left it.
Tell me this, do you remember your last game for Belvo before you went over to Blackburn?
No, I can't say that I do.
So the hat-trick against Kevin's would have been one of your last, presumably.
Yeah, well, see, I would have been under 14s at the time, so I would have.
What age were you when you went over to Blackburn?
I would have been 15. I was 15 when I went, but I played for my under 15s team for probably the 6 months of the year, and I left on the 7th of July. Had me going away party in Smith's, just across the road from Fairview, the pub.
That's it. So you remember the date? You wouldn't remember the last game, but you remember the date.
It scarred me for life, Colm Boohig, I remember.
Yeah. was this where you enjoyed, like, not where you enjoyed football the most, because you still had a great career in the grand scheme of things. I know you're so honest about like what you could have been or whatever, but like you're still like top 1%ers in terms of a career professionally. But in terms of your enjoyment, like, when did that peak?
I think probably it's difficult, because initially I would say Preston. I always felt like I played me very best football at Preston,
because they made you feel wanted. You were number 11.
They made me feel wanted, but there is a darker side to that, where I was drinking really, really heavily. But if I was to talk about pure football and pure enjoyment, it would be Belvedere. I'd be going back as far as Belvedere, because I've said this to you before many a time on off the ball. Football, when I left to go to Blackburn, I would give it probably 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months. It became a job really, really quickly to me. And I was getting out of bed to be paid rather than getting out of bed to enjoy playing football, and it flipped really quickly.
It's not a long time, is it, for that to flip?
But to be honest, like I went over at the age of 15. From the age of 12, I was going back and forward on trials. So any sort of Easter holidays, Christmas holidays, any holidays during the Christmas year, I was in England or Scotland or somewhere on trials. At the age of 13, I was sitting in Parkhead ready to sign a contract with Celtic, and these are all things I knew was coming. And me and me mother and father sat down and said, look, we'll do the juniors here and then we'll go to England. But yeah, so although I say like 15, I was flirting with it for years and years and sort of knew it was happening, although it's still hurt in the end.
When did you get it back, the love? Did you have to come back to Ireland sometimes and appreciate it? Like, I can imagine you come back here if you ever had time off. Or did you?
I did. I came back quite a lot, but it was always coming back to England. Leaving the house to go back to Dublin Airport was always the worst time for me. So although I'd be in Manchester thinking, can't wait to get to Dublin, I knew Dublin back to Manchester was going to happen really soon on the back of it. So I tried to protect myself and not do that an awful lot. And to be honest, most of the times I would come home, I would end up just staying on the rip for the whole weekend and lying to myself and pushing back deadlines of when I needed to go back. So I would try and avoid it as much as I could, although I did gravitate home quite a lot.
There's something about those pitches. I was just walking around the Fairview Park beforehand, you know, and it's like, it's a universal feeling if you like football. It doesn't matter where you are, because it actually brought me home as well straight away, and those opening the pitches. And we're recording this on a Wednesday morning, and that makes it, that makes it better, because it's like, you shouldn't even be here at this time of day, you know. We should all be in work, we should all be doing something else. It's behind the scenes, and it's so different to when you go to Ewood Park. And all the stadiums that you ended up playing in, is that they're big businesses and corporations and whatever. There's that feel to it, but here you're going back to like the real purity of football, and it's easily forgotten, especially in this day and age. Yeah,
it is. And again, when you look at kids now, even, you know, my daughter Jerry Ann used to play football. I've got Teddy now playing football at such a young age. Everybody wants to be at the end of the road so quickly, and you think, I want to play in big stadiums, I want to play for Ireland, I want to do this. There's a whole journey to be had in the middle of that, and the start of it is probably the most enjoyable of the lot. So don't wish it away. Don't think, I want to get there, I want to do this. Enjoy the time that you have, because in the blink of an eye it'll be gone.
But you don't enjoy it at the time. It's like,
you don't.
You so often take all those things for granted, you know. Like, would you be like, if Jerry Ann or Teddy came to you and said, I want to try and make a professional footballer, and it's never that formal of a sentence, but even you can see in their behaviour, would you encourage it? Like, would this be something, definitely go down my path?
Would I encourage you? Yeah, I would have to. I think if my kids came to me and said they wanted to do anything, they wanted to be an astronaut, I would encourage them. But I would obviously know that there's pitfalls along the way for them. I would try and help them. I would try and navigate it as best I could, as I would with anybody. You don't have to be my kids. If somebody knocked on my door and said, Keith, we have this X, Y and Z, what do you think we should do? I would try and help as best I could. I would only ever try and encourage the kids. I would never force them to do anything. And if football is something they want to do, I'm only there to encourage.
So what teammates do you remember from here that stick out? Don't even have to be well-known names, but just players.
Stephen Henderson would be one. He was from Blanchardstown, and he would come in and stay in my house before games, because Blanchardstown was so far away. There was no point coming in. There was Timmy and Sully, who were two Tipperary lads, used to come up and stay in my house as well. Pádraig Kinsley, a boy from East Wall. There was a lot. There was so many that just turned over year in, year out. But Daniel, Pádraig would be the ones that really stick with me, and Hendo obviously still doing really well at Charlton.
Is that like, as players, as teammates, or became friends? Because like, I can imagine, are there plays that you can remember like that, or link-ups, you know, that you can remember when you're playing for Belvedere?
There's little bits and bobs. See, now Daniel Ennis, the counsellor I was talking about, he was a left back and I was the left winger, so he used to get 2v1 quite an awful lot, and I used to cheat on the regular on Daniel, so he hated playing me. We also knew, if I can stop one of these counter-attacks and give it to Keith, then things will happen. But there's so many great little friendships. Even like now, you walk into coffee shops and there's players from back in the day that you bump into, and these little stories pop up. And even, do you remember the Coca-Cola sheets, hat-trick sheets? Were they a thing in Cork?
What's that?
If you scored a hat-trick in the DDSL, you would get like a sheet, and it would have Coca-Cola hat-trick written on it, and the time and club you played for, and they would get handed out. I don't know whether that was a Belvedere thing or a universal thing.
Did you get a crate of Coke and all?
No, just the certificate, Coca-Cola hat-trick, and there'd be loads of them. But just little things like that I remembered, really, invaluable memories. Do
you know, there's a question that people are asked a lot. It's like, if you had your time back again, would you do it? Would you do it all over? And are you in that place in life now where you're very content and you've done that side of your life and it's done? Or would you go back there right now if you could, to being a 14-year-old back at Belvedere before the fame hit?
Yeah, I would love to go back, but I would also be very tempted, because I know what's coming down the road after Belvedere. I wouldn't be rushing back to do an awful lot of the things I did do. But no, I take your point. Belvedere was probably one of the happiest times in my life, and don't get me wrong, I'm over the moon. I'm very, very content and happy with my family now and what I do in the media for a living. But it was just a time where there was no pressure. It was just love and fun. And obviously when you get to the elite stage of football, there's a lot of pressure, and yeah, I would go back, but I wouldn't do it all again.
What can other clubs learn from Belvo?
Yeah, I think just encourage. It's not all about the end goal. It's not about producing. No, I don't think anybody took Keith Treacy at 4 years of age in Fairview Park to come in and just train with his brother. Nobody looked at me then and thought we could get a payoff from this young fella. It was just about getting me in and enjoying it and having fun, and whatever comes of it comes of it. But help the human being first, because there's so many people that will struggle with mental health or think football's not for me. Can be quite this toxic masculinity gets thrown around quite a lot, and some places are toxic, but Belvedere is not a toxic place. And if you encourage the human being and you help the human being, you're making the social side of it so much better for people.
You probably didn't think about it too much at the time, but like the Belvo Cultures thing that we said there, where people are coming from all over to play for Belvo, like we were saying, Killian Sheridan from Cavan coming down, was like, well, there has to be something special there. And maybe it is a numbers game. There's like, look, if you play for Belvo, there's a good chance you're going to get scouted. Like, there used to be scouts all around here all the time. Yeah, so maybe it's just a numbers game.
To be honest, look, I don't want to discourage any other leagues, but I think the DDSL is one of the stronger leagues within Ireland, and if you're playing anywhere else in the country, you're thinking I need to be playing in the DDSL. That's where you will get most of the scouts and most of the Ireland trials, most of the Kennedy Cup trials and stuff like that, the Mill Cup. So you need to be playing in the DDSL, and that's Belvedere have a big pull in that as well. Yeah,
it's tough for them now, like with Belvedere, because gone are the days where Keith Treacy's going from Belvo to Blackburn.
Yeah.
So now it would be more likely there's a move in between, and it's League of Ireland. So I know you ended up at Pats, but that's more likely that would have happened now. So you've a Mason Media going from Pats to Spurs. Pats get the benefits of that. We'll have a few other big transfers like that too. But that's a shame, I suppose, in a way. Like, it doesn't really matter whatever way the individual makes it, but the pathways are less direct these days.
Yeah, and it does. It has a really bad effect on the DDSL. As you say, I played for Belva from 4 right up to 15, and then I went to Blackburn. But when you've kids at 12 and 13 years of age going to the likes of a Bows or St. Pat's or any club within the League of Ireland, and then they're going to England or Italy, it's just bypassing the DDSL clubs, and eventually it will get to the point of, well, what's the point in these clubs? And it sickens me to my stomach, because I've just talked about how much I loved my time at Belvedere and how necessary they are, because we can sit here and we can highlight all the internationals and all the players that have gone to big clubs, but how many people have they improved just as human beings? How many people thought I had my best time in my life at Belvedere but didn't necessarily become a footballer? Do you know what I mean? There'll be other people that had brilliant times at Belvedere but are working in Tesco or working, selling insurance. So it's not all about the Keith Treacy's of this world. So there's so many brilliant values in it that if clubs like Belvedere, Kevin's Home Farm were to perish, it would be a massive shame.
You've made it when you do a third person reference. And it sits so naturally
it
too.
So weird,
who else? There were probably players you played with who were unbelievable. Right, I suppose you were a lot of the times you're the most talented on the pitch, I'm guessing, and feel free to disagree with that, but I'm guessing you were. But was there any other players or player that you thought Shuin is definitely going to make it and didn't?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but in my league there would have been Anthony Stokes, there would have been Robert Bailey, Simon Madden. A lot of these boys that went on to play, Simon Madden played a lot of football for Shamrock Rovers back in the day. Robert Bailey would have went to Leeds with Soy at the time. Anthony Stokes done really well as well during his career. But there's not a lot, and to be fair, on a more light-hearted side, my wife is always blaming me on how poor Ireland are at the minute. She's saying your generation absolutely messed it all up, because I went off on the drink, one or two others went a bit haywire as well, and they're saying the only one from my under-21s who is still going today is Seamus Coleman. The rest of us all went absolutely haywire, and there is a little gap there, isn't there? So I hope nobody ever points out that it's my fault.
What happened?
Me personally,
the
drink. I went absolutely mental on the drink, and there's a couple of other stories in the background that I shouldn't speak on other people's history, but there's a generational gap there.
Is there, like, all jokes aside, an absence of care when you go over?
Probably, and to be fair, we were probably the last real wave of 15-year-olds to go over. Me, Anthony Stokes went to Arsenal at the time, and going to London was something I looked at and thought, I don't want to go to the big smoke. So Yeah, it's a very, very daunting task, and we joked at the start saying it scarred me for life. It really did. You know, leaving at 15, it wasn't the joke, and crying myself to sleep for day after day, month after month, until eventually I just became numb to the feeling of being away. It's not something I would wish on to any child, but you know, obviously Brexit has stopped an awful lot of that.
But I imagine that duty of care is a bit better now, because it sounds like I really didn't know that you felt that loved at Belvedere, that like the coaches took care of you. Like I really did have a perception that it was a production school of the most talented footballers in the country, and with that sentence it is associated with the ruthlessness that like you're either good enough or you're not, and we're going to focus on the lads who are going to make it. But it didn't seem like that. It was like, as you say, they cared for the person first, let the football do the talking second. So that's a very difficult environment to leave, I imagine. So if Belvedere wasn't such a nice club to play for, it might have been easier in a perverse way for you to transition over.
Yeah, possibly, but like Blackburn, although you know, people say it's absolutely cutthroat. When I was 15, I had a 3-year deal, so I thought I don't have to hit the ground running. And again, I didn't go over at 15, and it's the first time I've ever stepped into Blackburn. From the age of 13, I was over and back and realised I'm going to be moving here pretty soon. I started to make relationships and know people pretty well. And I got a feel, when I went over there, I didn't train with the under 15s, I would train with the under 18s, and if the 18s were playing in the Youth Cup, I'd go and train with the reserves. There was once I actually got thrown in with the first team, so I got a little flavour, and I thought, this could be worth my while. Like I wasn't chasing shadows the whole time, my touch wasn't letting me down. I felt fairly comfortable in the environment and thought, this is something I could do. And like I say, I was even not in the first team, but I had a little taste of the first team, and I thought, it doesn't seem a million miles away from me to go from A to Z here. So I went over and gave it everything I had.
Do you remember when you first came back, when you were over at Blackburn and you had that break and you came back here and you came back to this club? Do you remember what it was like? Like, was there some sort, not a homecoming, but I'd say there was a happiness for you, I'd imagine?
I don't really remember ever coming back during my time playing. Obviously I've been to the club a couple of times now since I retired at 26. I would have been back. I remember Stephen Elliott. I was playing for Belvedere at the time, and Stephen Elliott came to watch a game, and I think he was playing for Wolves in the Premier League, and I remember all the coaches gravitating towards him, and he must have been on the way to becoming a full Irish international. And I just remember everybody going over and shaking his hand, and the respect, and I thinking, I want that. If I ever come back into Fairview Park, I want all the coaches to come back and shake my hand and know who I am. And thankfully I've had a little taste of that, but seeing Stephen Elliott do it, I thought, I want some of that as well.
If you had your time back, would you have played on longer?
I would have loved to, but I don't think it was capable. Again, to try and keep this light-hearted, I was in a deep, dark place with the drinking, and I don't think I could have got better inside a football environment. I had to totally remove myself and cut a lot of ties and a lot of connections and relationships with people because I needed to get better. So although I would have loved to, I don't think it was ever possible. So
when you're back here now and you're looking around, as the screen goes off and the crest, right, so it just disappears, as I'd say, that it was like the feeling of the love for the game, I imagine. I don't know, like, tell me otherwise if not, that it comes back, flowing back to when you go back to a club like this and you talk to people from here and you see the pitches and you see the facilities, that they're coming along nicely, and it's probably a reminder of the reason that it all happened for you in the first place. Yeah,
it is. It is a good eye opener, because I'm very lucky to do what I do in terms of the media, doing a lot of commentaries and analysis, and so often I'll turn up at a stadium, the Aviva or wherever I'm doing games, and I think I only ever see the finished article. I see the 90 minutes and I don't get to see the hard graft. I don't get to see the grassroots. But when you're coming in here and you get to see you get the smell of grass, the smell of freshly cut grass is one of the things that just bring me back to my childhood. Vicks on the jersey, one of the things. I smell Vicks, I can't help but think of Patrick Vieira and me trying to emulate him back in the day. I used to have Vicks on my jersey and the socks up over my knees, thinking I was Thierry Henry and Vieira all rolled into one.
Vicks and a night out.
But it was those little things, and when you come back here and you get those familiar smells and people are talking about Vinny Butler, somebody who's just been a mainstay in my career, my career throughout, it just brings you back to how lucky I was to be a part of it. Right, so first up we have Vinny Butler here, Vinny is a man who has been through with me whole career, from under 13s Belvedere, he would have been there just keeping an eye on things, seeing how I was developing. He was the under 15s Ireland manager, picked me all the time for that, and the under 16s, and he was actually a family friend of the Cassidys down in Ringsend, so really, really close, always kept in touch, always told me nanny and granddad if I was acting the maggot in hotels, and just had me best interest at heart. It went beyond football with Vinny, and yeah, I'll always be forever grateful, and Vinny is still knocking around at Belvedere now, and he's just one of those good guys who treats everybody the same, tries to do their best for every single player. Yeah, and he's one that I'm grateful that I had in my career and in my life. And we have Curtis Fleming just under Vinny. I wouldn't have known Curtis too well, but I did play for the under 21s under Don Givens, and Curtis came in as the coach. And there's actually a decent story. When we were training, I would have been, without blowing my own horn, I would have been quite important to the Irish under 21s, and somebody got injured in training, and Curtis said, well, I'll join in, and he came to close the ball down while I had me back to him, and he slipped and absolutely nailed me, and I pretended to be injured for a little while. And you want to see Curtis getting a little bit hot under the collar, thinking he just ended the Irish under 21's best player. But Curtis, another legend of Belvedere, top left. Right, so first up we have Stephen Elliott. He would have played for Sunderland. I would have come across Sleevesy when we were at Preston together. Really good player, sharp movement, done really well, really good career. The next one up would be Matt Doherty, who's just been left out of the Irish squad. He's had a surgery on his wrist, I believe. Doing really well, still active and playing for Wolves. We've got Killian Sheridan next up. I'm not sure what jersey he's wearing on that, because he played for so many random clubs. God knows which one that is. We have Troy Parrott as well. This is him playing for MK Dons, obviously doing really well for AZ Alkmaar at the minute. Troy would have grew up just around the corner from me in Sheridan Street, so he's one I look out for quite a lot and hope he does really well in his career, which obviously he's flying at the minute. We've got David Ford here, who I think he would have been, was he north of 30 by the time he got his first Ireland cap, and his nickname in the Ireland camp was Clark Kent. I don't think there's any explanation needed. He looks a little bit like Superman. And the next one up is Wes Houlihan in Norwich jersey. I don't think that needs any explanation, and the amount of times we talk about Wes on off the ball when we speak about Ireland, given how much of a technician he was. He's somebody that we're severely lacking at the minute in an Irish jersey. And one under is Richie Ryan, and Richie would have been a little bit older than me during the Belvedere years, but somebody that I was constantly taught about. And when I played for the Irish under 15s and 16s, it was always Richie Ryan at Sunderland is the next best thing, and doing really well now, coaching over in America. I did my B badge with him up the north, so got to meet him and got to know Richie Ryan quite well. And here's Stephen Henderson. I think he's playing for Crystal Palace in this jersey, and Hendo is one that would have been in my Belvedere team. We grew up together, would have played for all the Irish groups throughout the years. I think he got into the senior team a few times, but don't think he ever earned a cap. Sorry if I've shortchanged on that one, Hendo. But doing really well now, coaching the goalkeeping coach at Charlton. We've got Mark Kennedy, probably one of the only autographs I've ever picked up in my whole life, and that was again in Smith's across the road from Fairview. We came back to do a Belvedere gig, and I ended up getting his autograph on the back of a packet of Frosties, believe it or not. So yeah, we got Graham Burke, Shamrock Rovers legend, obviously across the water with Villa and Preston. I think he played up in Scotland as well. And we have one or two others that I would have played with in the media, or been with in the media. There's Alan Cawley. Doesn't even look like him. Doesn't look like an unwell Alan Cawley playing for Leeds. And we have a very well-fed Tim Clancy playing for Hibs. And to the right of him is Paul Curry playing for Sheffield Wednesday. I do the odd gig with Paul as well in the media. And how can we forget Stephen Kelly? What a right back. And every time I see Stephen Kelly, the stat sticks with me that he played 70 times in the Premier League before he got his first Irish cap. How good were our right backs back then?